Hi guys, welcome to Collision's first Centre Stage debate for 2018, or as I like to call it, competitive thinking. My high school debate captain self is very proud to share a stage with these two brilliant people who will be maybe not quite as heated as what the last discussion just was. We're not going to necessarily tell you how to not die, but we'll talk about something that's going to live on long after you. So the topic that we're debating today is about the ethics of AI. Our vision for emerging technology has often been of the great equalizer. Algorithms that can remove bias from training decisions, robots and haptics that can give mobility back to non-able bodies, devices that can connect the previously unconnected. But these technologies also are doing quite the opposite. Because humans are fallible, technologies we create are too. We are embedding our own race and gender biases in the algorithms we're creating. We're increasing the digital divide between the haves and the have-nots. And many of these technologies are being created by and used for socioeconomic stratas that can afford them and not the ones that need them most. So in many ways, technology is democratizing the world, and in other ways, it's turning it into a metrocracy. So before we go on, we want to get a bit of a vibe for where you guys already think before our experts weigh in on this. So if you get out your Collision apps and go to that little More tab that's down the side, you can then click on the Slido polls. We've got a lovely version of it up here for you. Once you click there, there's going to be a prompt for you to either vote for either yes for the motion or no for the motion. So while you guys are doing that, I'm going to introduce our speakers. Fighting for either side of this argument are Stuckey-Kirk, the Chief Corporate Social Responsibility Officer at Verizon, and Babak, Hodjat, the co-founder and CEO of Sentient Technologies. Acknowledged as one of the most powerful women in corporate America, in her current role with Verizon, where she also serves as the president of the Verizon Foundation, Rose leads a team focused on delivering cloud technologies to the underserved populations of the world. In the other corner, we have Babak, who comes from a more academic startup pedigree. He's a serial Silicon Valley entrepreneur, a widely published artificial intelligence scholar, and currently holds 31 current or pending patents. Both are intimately acquainted with emerging technologies, that they see its societal impact in different ways. So, we're fairly down the middle there. I'm just going to write this down so we can go later. So what's going to happen now is that I'm going to invite these two speakers to both give opening statements for if they agree or disagree with this statement, where they're going to go through some Q&A panel style moderation, and they're going to ask you guys to have some closing comments, and then you guys are going to get to re-vote and decide who you think has swayed the most. So, with that, Rose, do you want to take the floor?
So the premise is that technology is responsible for increasing inequality. And you can certainly argue the point that as you think about the human that is behind the technology, that the biases and the inequality has always existed. I think about this statement, and I think about a little girl in Polk County, Tennessee, who is in a school that has no access to technology. She is in middle school, and she understands that her future is based on her ability to not only educate herself with technology, but to also use it every day in her curriculum, because she knows that her future set, how she gets into college, the quality of the college that she gets into, the decisions that she makes, the problems that she solves is based on access to technology. Yet she exists in a place and a time and a school that simply does not have it. And the question she posed was, why can't I have access? Why can't I have the opportunity? And so when I think about the opportunity to give her access, to change the way that teachers are teaching and students are learning, when I think about the fact that she happens to be underserved, she's in a school where greater than 60% of the kids qualify for free and reduced lunch, I know for a fact that there is an inequality in America's schools relative to how we use and apply technology. When I think about the healthcare space and those who have access and those who are in a space where they can indeed afford the best doctors with the best technology, with the opportunity for cure, that in our society, as we lean into technology to solve problems, we are leaving individuals and people behind. When I think about the algorithms that, while they are supposed to eliminate bias, they are simply created by humans. And we are in a society where even back to the 19th century, the the renowned scientist Samuel Morton decided that he would create the paradigm for what we think of as race. Even though it is genetically non-existent, he decided that he would measure brains based upon putting peppercorns into the skulls and deciding, based on the ethnicity that he created, your capacity. And so as we think about what is happening with our algorithms, when we think about the fact that we leave people unprotected from cyberbullying, that we will stop it for certain classes of people but not for others, we are inadvertently creating and allowing inequality to continue. So at the end of the day, we can argue and debate that it is not the technology, but it is the human behind it. But in a society where the jobs and the economic equality and the opportunities is sitting with those who have access to technology, and we all want economic equality and economic independence, we are leaving behind those who are the least of them inadvertently, because technology is indeed creating inequality. Babak.
Well, how do you follow up on that? Definitely there is inequality. There's no doubt about that. My question is, though, what and who is responsible for that? And I don't think technology is responsible for that. Technology might give us a sense of helplessness. It might make us feel like those with technology have superiority over all others. But it's a syndrome of systemic issues in our society and our democracy and our capitalism that has caused those issues, not technology itself. In fact, for the most part, technology enables us and empowers us to fight that. And I'll just give you a few numbers around that. We keep talking about jobs. What is the largest job creator here in the United States and around the world? It is technology. And every time it's been technology that in its advent, everybody thought it's going to take away jobs. And it's come in with a wave of job displacement, but ultimately a net gain in jobs. So computers, since 1980, they've added 18.5 million new jobs. Mobile, they've added more than 10 million jobs, and 5.1% of GDP. And then, AI. People keep talking to me about how AI is going to take over because it's just like human brains, right? It's going to be, doing our jobs. In fact, if you look at what Gartner published just recently around jobs, although AI is going to, we're going to lose about 1.8 million jobs to AI, the net gain of jobs is going to be 2.3 million new jobs by 2020. That's only in the area of jobs, which is an enabler fundamentally. But then you go to education. We're learning through video online, through Khan Academy, and that is very, very democratized today. Anyone, anywhere, with access to a mobile phone and internet, and that is increasing drastically, has access to the highest quality education possible. You can take Andrew Ng's machine learning course anywhere in the world today. That's not something you could have done even 20 years ago, 10 years ago. And that's the empowerment that technology is giving us. The internet itself is expanding. Many companies, including Verizon, Facebook, Google, Dell, they know that to them, increasing their market means increasing the penetration of broadband and Wi-Fi and internet. And so, for example, Dell alone helped 2.3 million kids get access, low-income kids get access to technology that didn't have access to technology at all prior to that. And then there's other things. I mean, the list goes on. Microloans, online payments, enabling mom and pop shops with a dream, entrepreneurs with a dream to get to where they want to go. Let's remember, this was not possible 10 years ago. So we have all this power in our hands right now to correct what is systemically wrong. And so with power comes with power comes responsibility. ruined my punchline there. And we should take it in our hands. We are a democratic society, and we can make changes and improvements, and technology is an extension of us as humans. We can definitely improve. I'm very optimistic about that.
Rose is very, very politely putting up her hand, like she might want to rebut one of those statements. But
Yes, because Babak, thank you for making my point. Because the point that you are making is that we have access to this amazing technology that can equalize and that can change sort of the world and that can democratize. Thank you for showing the jobs that are created. And as a employee of Verizon, I understand that. But also recognize that that is exactly the point. That it is such a powerful tool and such an important tool that can drive the economy, but too many individuals are left behind. It's the voice of the little girl from Bristol, Pennsylvania, who said to me, when it came to technology, I was, quote, in the Stone Ages. She was 12 years old. And so she understood that this world, this digital economy that we created, that what is happening in terms of technology, she is left out and does not have access, and thus she falls even further behind. Because it is that tool of technology that is creating the inequality. And so whether we admire what it can do, and certainly as an employee of Verizon, I do, we also have to understand that it is changing the paradigm as to what being qualified and ready for the jobs of the future look like. So thank you for your points.
This might get...
Yeah, I mean, just very briefly on that. Technology has made it also easier for us to pick up on these types of anecdotes, on these stories that are individually very powerful and interesting, but we would not have had access to them without technology, without social media, without the power to actually hear these stories. We would just be ignorant. But at the end of the day, the statistics don't lie. Technology has been a net creator of jobs, and it has been a net enabler of education, and it has played a very strong part in democratization around the world. We keep hearing about the Twitter revolution and the Facebook uprising, and countries that had no access and no knowledge of what democracy and freedom is, opening their eyes to that. So while I think that is the power of technology, that we are able to hear these stories, and it wisens us up to all the work that still remains to be done. But I think that it does also have this power of magnifying disproportionately what is wrong.
So I'm going to just quickly jump in here with a question as your moderator. I could just let you guys kind of ping-pong this back and forth for a little while. But technology itself is a tool. Technology is not inherently good nor bad. It is whatever we use it for. It is whatever values that we humans imbue it with. I think that you guys can both agree that there is inequality out there in the world. Technology has something to do with it. But who is responsible for those inequalities in the first place? Is it the technology or is it people? Because that is the operating word in this debate, is who is responsible for it. But it's one of those classic things of, can the thing that has created the problem also be the thing to solve it? So I wanted to put it forward to you guys of what has actually created this problem? The systemic issues that we have in society, not just here in America, but all over the world. Do they come from people, or do they come from the technologies that they use to communicate and make that society? Rose or Babak?
Unless we decide that technology can be held responsible, it is not. It's our decision. So, and if you're holding it responsible, you better pay for it too, right? So I think it was Bill Gates that says we should hold self-driving cars responsible, and yeah, if you're holding it responsible, you better open a bank account and pay it as well. Currently, we're not at that stage. And technology is inherently not responsible for anything. So we need to seek the party that is responsible and hold them responsible for the disproportionate power that they yield with the technology that they have at their disposal. Facebook is a very good example. Last year, I was at a conference, and Mark Zuckerberg talked about how he had made an exception to their filtering rules to allow something that Donald Trump said to propagate as like a news item. And he was saying that with pride. But what did he do? He actually he took responsibility away from the technology and single-handedly, this is power in the hands of one person. He made this change so that a lot of people got to see something that would have ordinarily been filtered on Facebook. How did that guy get to make that call? Why are we not out there with rules around ethics, regulation, monopolies, and so forth, and reining this in? We've given Mark Zuckerberg, not Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, disproportionate power here. And that's the source. That's where the responsible party lies in this particular example, in my opinion.
So I think the fundamental premise is, can you take something that is innate or an object like technology and humanize it and weaponize it? And the answer is yes, because that is fundamentally what equality is all about, is what tool do you use to weaponize? And so whether you put that power in the hands of one person or whether one person decides to make a decision, they are fundamentally then humanizing and weaponizing the tool, no matter what it is, to drive a disparity for whatever reason that may exist. So where does the responsibility lie? I think it lies in to some degree in both. And the fact that technology, to everything that was said earlier, allows us to have broad-based awareness, broad-based conversations, to move at a speed and a pace that we have never seen before. And yes, there is a responsibility to use it well and to use it wise, but ultimately it can be weaponized and humanized for whatever the injustice or inequality is that one would want to create.
It also comes down to this matter of you bringing up the difference between Mark Zuckerberg as a single person, Facebook as a private company. You then have the role the government plays. You have then, as soon as you leave that line, it's a different, depending on where you sit in society's own caste system, if you will, your level of ability to control and impact your own life dramatically decreases. So in that case, we can't decide to now opt out of using technology in our lives, and those who don't even have access to it often don't have the option to opt in at this stage. So should it be the user's responsibility to wield technology correctly, or what role does regulation have to play in this as well?
So if you're asking a woman who works for Verizon, does she want more regulation? The answer would be no. But I think in a broader sense, if you're asking how do we then begin to understand where our gaps and our disparities are, and can we create as much as possible a society, whether it's domestic or global, where we begin to A, recognize that there is a problem, and B, begin to lean into kind of how we use technology as a solution. I think that's just a human obligation that we all should think about and take very seriously.
I totally agree. At the end of the day, our best tools are science, sociology, science of ethics, and technology. At the end of the day, that's all we have. If anybody has any better ideas as to how to tackle these issues, I'd like to hear that. And those are areas where, if we blindly go after the latest breakthrough in technology and just put it out there without thinking about the implications, then yes, we have a problem. Again, the technology itself is not responsible. It's us. We are more empowered and therefore more responsible to control that power. And so I fully agree actually on that one with Rose.
Well, we've actually only got 5 minutes left. This is going very, very quickly. So I'm going to get you guys to both make some wrap-up statements for about 2 minutes. And in it, I want to follow on from what you were saying of what are the solutions to this? If we can kind of agree to disagree on the issue that we have at place, is technology the best thing to be pushing forward to solve this problem, or is it the people that we should be focusing on? When human bias comes into play with it, which way should we be trying to solve this problem with?
I apologize. Can you just repeat the last part?
When human bias comes into the equation, should we be using technology solely to try to fix this problem, or should we fix the humans that are causing the biases in the technologies and systemic things that flow on from that?
Well, I think that we will never be able to fix human biases. I mean, that would be sort of utopia and a world that all of us would love to live in. I think I would just close with a point of view that says, I believe that fundamentally we exist in a place where there are always tools that are available for us to use. And there are always going to be inequalities that exist. And I think I can only lean into the space of where is our biggest point of intervention, and I think it is in the hearts and minds of the young people that we are educating in America every single day. And our responsibility is to sort of take those hearts and minds and make sure that we are not only giving them the tools and access to the tools, so there is equality and there is problem solving, there's ability to use technology to solve societal issues, but we are also giving them a space where that curriculum has a sense of responsibility to each other. And while that may seem very much like a Pollyanna point of view, it is not too far-fetched in terms of what our opportunity and obligation can and should be. So I ultimately still believe that the technology, the tools, the how we use it, how we create it is a key part of the inequalities that we see in society. But I am hopeful that we can intervene in a very critical space, not only give everyone access, but also teach them how to use it responsibly.
Thank you. Babak?
Yeah, I mean, totally. That is absolutely what we need to do. And, the tools to give that education, obviously, through technology is available to us. We need to explicitly think about implications of technology rather than blindly following the latest breakthrough. I'm repeating that, but I think that's super important. If you take, for example, in my field, AI, if you build a deep learning model based on just images and so forth, or text, you're likely to have it reflect the biases that were there when that data was collected and or created. And so if you blindly just follow that model as if that model now is the ground truth, then we're in trouble. We have to think about cultural sensitivities. We have to think about inherent biases that are already there in the data. And we have to come up with ways to validate and ensure that the systems that we're building comply with what we believe is an equitable society. And of course, on top of that, have the regulations and the laws to ensure that we are on the path to get to that society, using the power of technology in our hands. So for sure, I think that obligation is ever greater, and somehow, for example, in making use of mobile technology and Facebook and social media, we seem to delegate that responsibility. We're now very, very reactive to what is shown to us. And it's just a quick feedback loop that, we see something, we hit like, and we're very reactive to that. And we're going the other way. Again, the responsibility is on us. If fake news is causing issues in our democracy, it's not inherently the fact that there's a medium in which the fake news is propagated. It's the people that are affected by that without thinking beyond what that fake news is implying and what it's doing. So just as an example, I do think that we need to educate at a very young age. That responsibility should be something that we educate our kids.
I feel that we have come full circle here and started at the point and then deviated and came all the way back around. As you can see, we've brought back up the poll. If you guys want to quickly open up your phones and add in your final bit before we leave the stage, I think that Rose has technically won this debate.
She wins that.
If we want to give a hand to Rose, although I do...
To both.
Thank you. Yeah. However, I think that it is a very... Oh, we're actually climbing all the way back up. 50%.
50-50.
Is this an AI that, have one of you guys hacked this? Is this like kind of going really, well, we're going back and forth here. Let's actually call this even, I'm going to say. I think that you guys are the winners for getting to hear these guys speak on these amazing topics. I think it was very, very informative and enlightening. So thank you very much and enjoy the rest of Collision, guys.
Thank you.